we go. We have from Admission Masters, Miss Jenny Wheatley. She's here with us today. She is the president of, she is the president of Admission Masters. She has 10 years of experience in college admissions at Admission Masters and over 6 years of experience in the college admissions team at Johns Hopkins University and Ucla. And she also received her education master's degree there as well. Okay, now we're ready for Miss Jenny Wheatley. Hi, are you here? Yay,
yes.
Hello.
Hi. Thank you so much.
No problem. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Is it now almost the afternoon?
Yes.
Thank
yes,
you.
We're almost there. So thank you so much to Selena, the Korea Daily, and McDonald's for putting on this amazing opportunity. I'm so excited to be here with all of you guys and hopefully get some good information out there. I was here since you guys started and I saw a lot of great questions on YouTube Live. So keep posting those questions. I'm here to answer any of those questions towards the end of my seminar. I try to wrap things up really quickly because I know that a lot of people really want to ask a lot of questions. So again, continue asking questions. Hopefully we can get through a lot of them today throughout the seminar. I also saw a lot of people asking about extracurricular activities. I know this is such a popular topic right now, which is exactly why I want to cover extracurricular activities today. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm actually going to be sharing my own screen. So hopefully you guys are able to see everything on my end. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Before we get started, I do want to tell you guys that we do have a free podcast. As I mentioned, it is completely free. We're in our fourth season, and we have some special episodes. So if you guys want more information on, the podcast, if you guys want more information on, just college admissions in general, please feel free to check us out at the Hall Pass podcast. So before we go ahead and get in, I want to talk about just admissions trends in general. I think it's really important for all of you guys to see, what it is that colleges are looking for when it comes to admissions trends. And so I want to show you guys some data. So let's start with the popular UC schools to begin with. I think everybody, for the most part, knows, UC schools tend to be fairly popular in terms of admissions. As you guys can see, UCLA is one of the more popular colleges to apply to. It's actually one of the most popular colleges to apply to. So I'm just going to kind of show you guys a little bit more on UCLA specifically. As you guys know, the UCs actually went test optional for this upcoming year for the class of 2021. So don't worry so much, if you didn't get a chance to take the SAT or ACT in general, so you don't have to necessarily look at this too much. But I would definitely recommend that, for students who may have had a lower GPA or just want to show that they are doing well academically, you may want to take the ACT or SAT, but I wanted to kind of just show you guys what it looks like for UCLA as well as UC Berkeley. And you'll also notice here that for students who do, the high school GPA, it says 4.15 to 4.30. And that is what is the UC GPA, okay? So don't feel like, oh, my high school, we can't get a GPA this high. There's no way for me to get, 4.3 or anything like that. Don't worry. They're going to recalculate your GPA to meet the A through G requirements of the UC GPA. So that is what it's called, the UC GPA A through G requirements. If you don't know what your UC GPA is, go ahead and ask your high school counselor. They can calculate it for you. Or you can also go onto the UC website where it says calculate your UC GPA. They call it the UC GPA calculator, which you can find on Google. You can start putting in your information in there and it'll automatically give you what the GPA is for you currently. Okay, so this is something that I want you guys to obviously take into consideration. I'm also going to show you guys UC San Diego and UC Irvine. Again, just so you guys can see what it is that colleges are looking for in terms of their GPA and test scores. Of course, since they are test optional, you can definitely just focus on the GPA specifically, since that is what a lot of colleges are going to want to see in terms of the UCs. And as you guys know, the UCs only calculate your 10th and 11th grade GPAs, which is also going to go in your A through G category. So this is just something that I want you guys to be aware of. And just so you know, the UCLA is the #1 most popular college to apply to. It's definitely going to get more competitive as time goes on. So just kind of want to let you guys know about that. It's not necessarily a bad thing per se, but it is something I want you guys to kind of think about. I also wanted to show you guys the 2020 college acceptance rates for this past year. So a lot of my students have, obviously applied to a lot of these schools, and you can see, I'm sorry if the screen's a little bit tough to see, but you'll see that, a lot of these schools have the 4.5 to 8 to 9 a range. Hopefully you see some schools on this list that you like, that you are considering. You'll notice that, some of these schools will go up in percentages, like Boston College, Emory University, right? NYU. I saw some people from New York here. So definitely take this into consideration in terms of percentages, but there is a reason why I am showing this to you guys. And that is to show a couple of things. Every single year that I do a seminar, I pretty much talk about how acceptance rates go down every year, right? Percentages, it goes from like 7 to 6 to 5, so on and so forth. But in 2020, this past year, I just want to kind of show you guys that actually admissions went up slightly in terms of percentages. And there's a lot of different reasons as to why this may have happened. But I did want to kind of share kind of good news for you guys in general, just so that you can see that some of these top tier schools, their percentages went up. Columbia went up about 1%, MIT to 7.3, Yale to about 1%. So like you'll notice that from 2019 to 2020, even Harvard went up 0.4, for example, right? They went up slightly here and there. So I just kind of noted some of these colleges with the higher percentage of acceptance. Now, why am I showing this to you guys? I think the biggest thing that I really want to kind of tell you is, there's a lot of reasons why admissions, might go up and down. But in this specific year of 2020, some colleges are expanding their freshman class size. So I don't know if you guys know, but Yale University, they just opened the Paul Murray and Benjamin Franklin colleges. And because they opened these new colleges, there are more students that they're able to accept. And also COVID-19 in some ways have allowed colleges to want to accept more students, which is definitely going to impact class of 2021 students who are applying this year as well. So just so you guys know, I think it's important for you to recognize that sometimes colleges admissions may go up. Now, I do get a lot of questions where a lot of students are like, well, what do I do? How do I know if a college is going to increase their, admissions class size or anything like that? What can I do to kind of acknowledge that? What do I know, or how do I know that? And I think the biggest thing that you should pretty much do is to get on the mailing list for all of the colleges that you are interested in. And a lot of colleges will send you news about whether or not they have a new school opening up, or if they are expanding their class size the following year. All of those things are absolutely going to help you in terms of college admissions and things like that. So I think that that's something that you might just want to consider to get on their mailing list. And it is very, very easy for you to check the mailing list for that. It is, if you did, for example, USC mailing list, that'll just come up as the USC mailing list. So that is something that you guys can actually take into consideration if you want to ever check that out. So let's go ahead and go into the next part here, which is what a lot of students want to talk about. So what is it that college admissions wants? I feel like a lot of students want to kind of see what college admissions is looking for and what they want specifically. So I want to show you guys some data. So I'm just going to pull out a couple of colleges here, well-known colleges. So if you're like, well, where's my college, the one that I want to look into? Don't worry too much about that. I just want to show you that every college has something called a common data set. And basically, when you are a college admissions officer, you're given kind of this common data set in terms of what colleges are looking for. And you'll notice that they're separated into very important, considered, and not considered. And specifically for Yale, you'll notice that extra extracurriculars fall into the very important category. And the reason why they fall into the very important category is because it's one way that college admissions will be able to see your capabilities as a student, right? This is one way that they'll be able to see beyond your academics, how much of an impact that you have on campus, how much of an impact you have at your school and your community and beyond. I want to show you a couple other ones. So you'll see USC. USC's, they consider extracurricular activities to be important. That is not to say that, okay, they think extracurricular activities are less important than, Yale, so I don't have to work as hard. You'll notice that a lot of students who do get accepted into USC and Yale do have this kind of fairly important element. When it says important or very important, it still means that extracurricular activities are important. So I would definitely make sure that you are still working towards your extracurricular activities. I want to show you UCLA, which also considered extracurricular activities to be important. You'll also notice here that the three schools that I showed you so far in different rankings, they have, UCLA to be very important when it comes to like academics and your applications and things like that. Just so you guys know, the UCs do not necessarily require recommendation letters unless they request it, which is why it's not necessarily on this common data set. But you'll notice that for the extracurricular activities, like they are going to consider that it is important part of your application. And then I want to show Carnegie Mellon, because Carnegie Mellon is very interesting in that not only do they consider extracurricular activities to be very important, but they also consider volunteer work and work experience to be very important, which I think was really interesting. And so, if you're getting a part-time job or you have an opportunity to get maybe a paid internship or volunteer work somewhere, Carnegie Mellon specifically does really like students to have extracurricular activities, volunteer work, or work experiences. So I would absolutely take that into consideration if you are planning on applying to Carnegie Mellon or you like Carnegie Mellon. That might be a school that you might want to make sure that you are expanding on your opportunities for volunteer and work experience. So again, I just wanted to kind of show you guys what it is that colleges are looking for. And now we will go into what kind of activities that colleges want and what kind of activities that colleges not want, right? And so, and then I'm going to kind of tell you guys, if you have activities that colleges don't necessarily care about, then I'm going to talk to you about what you can do to improve those opportunities so that colleges do like the extracurricular activities that you have chosen overall. So let's go ahead and get started. So what are top 20 colleges specifically looking for? There's three things that colleges are looking for when it comes to activities. It's community involvement, school impact, and passion. Community involvement, school impact, and passion. So why is it that colleges are looking for these three types of things? Well, the first reason why colleges are looking for this is because they want to know what kind of impact you're going to have on campus if you were to come on campus. So for example, if you were to say, hey, I am a president of this club on campus and I changed my school, my high school, to be this way, then they'll know that when you come to their campus, that you are also going to make an impact on their campus as well. And that is something that they definitely want to consider. And that is something that they really, really like. So for the most part, I would highly recommend for students to make an impact on their campus. Don't just do activities that don't have an impact, right? Make sure that you do activities that are going to have an impact on campus. And I think that that is going to be valuable as well. The other reason why colleges want to see kind of your passion is they want students to have some level of passion. It doesn't mean that, that you're going to be a doctor, right? Like, actually, I thought I wanted to be a doctor when I was in high school and even in middle school, but I'm obviously not a doctor right now. And so they want to just know that you have some level of passion, some level of desire, some level of want and need, intellectual curiosity, or something that you just really love. And that is something that they are looking for specifically. So I would definitely recommend that you show activities that are going to show community involvement, school impact, and passion overall. Now, I just wanted to kind of show you guys what college admissions are going to see. So when you get on the common application, which is the application that a lot of the private schools are going to be using, and even if you use, the UC application, even if you use the coalition application, right, they're still going to have similar things where they're going to ask you what type of activity, do you want to talk about? And they have like this drop-down menu to kind of show you the categories of activities. They'll also ask you what type of position, leadership, description, organization name, right? So this is where you put like the club name or the organization name, as well as your leadership. So if you're like president or vice president of the club, then you're going to put that as well. And you're also going to describe this activity, including what you accomplished and any recognition that you received, and then participation in grade levels, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. They're always going to be looking at that as well. If you did it for all 4 years or just a couple of years, and your timing of participation, did you do it during the school year, during school break, or all year long? They're going to take a look at that. And then hours spent per week and weeks spent per year. They're obviously going to be looking at that as well. And so basically you want to make sure that you are providing as much information here as possible. But on the common application, they're going to have 10 slots. 10칸이 있을 거예요, right? There's going to be 10 slots for you to be writing your activities, and the order in which you present it and what you write in these little slots where there's only 150 characters is going to be really, really important. So I would highly recommend that you take that into consideration when you are looking at your activities overall, to just make sure that you are presenting this. And I always give kind of a rule of thumb. Of the 10 activities, I would recommend that about 3-4 activities are related to your major. So whatever major that you are going into, you want to make sure that you have activities that relate to that major. And then about 2 or 3 activities that are related to like community impact or community service is going to be also really important. And then lastly, you probably want to make sure that you have activities that are kind of like colorful, hobby related activities that are going to set you apart from other students is something that you want to definitely look into as well. So these are the different types of things that colleges are going to look into in terms of the common applications. I'm going to go ahead and move forward. In terms of the common application, they also have the award section of the application. And basically the award section also kind of shows you have 5 sections or 5 spaces that you can put the awards, and it gives you like the honors title and then the grades that you receive them, and then whether they're like school, state, regional, national, or international. And obviously the more national and international the award is, the better. But that doesn't mean that all 5 of your all 5 of your awards have to have national or international. So don't worry about that if you don't have awards that are all national or international. If your school has like honor roll or dean's list, or because you have a good GPA, you get on their awards list, that all works as well. But just know that these are also academic awards. Okay, they're not necessarily like art or music. Those awards will not go into this section. These are just academic awards specifically. Okay, so activities. So what kind of activities do colleges like? And I just kind of put a quote in here just to kind of show you that colleges are definitely looking for commitment and time when it comes to your activities. You don't want necessarily activities that you're just doing for, 1 year or even 1 summer. If you do something, they want to see consistency. And I wanted to quote something that the CEO of College Board said, David Coleman, had mentioned that, MIT, if you guys any of you guys want to apply to MIT only has 4 spaces on their application instead of like common application has 10. MIT only has 4, and those 4 spaces specifically, the reason they have that is because MIT believes that they'd rather see activities that are very impactful, that you have committed to and dedicated to for a long period of time, and they'd rather see those activities than just 10 activities that you've done for 1 year or for a couple of days or a week of volunteer service, because it doesn't show commitment or dedication. So for what it is that college admissions also wants to see is this level of dedication and commitment. So when you're thinking about, okay, what kind of activities do I want to do? Yeah, it's important for you to do new activities and be proactive to participate in new activities, but they're also going to want to see activities that you have committed to for a long period of time. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this in a minute, because you also don't want to commit to an activity that you are not really participating in, right? If you are in a club and all they do is watch movies and you're not learning anything in that club, then it's not very valuable to be in a club and dedicate yourself for 4 years in that club, right? And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a minute as well, just so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. Colleges also want to see quality versus quantity, right? Obviously, if there are 10 spots on the common application, but you can absolutely, fill up just 8 of those 10 spots if your activities have quality. So long lists cultivate busy mediocrity rather than sustained excellence. So if you want to make sure that you show college admissions that you are dedicated and you are committed to the activities that you are doing, I would highly recommend that the activities that you do are obviously focused on something that you have done for a long period of time, something that shows commitment, something that shows an impact in your community, right? Changing something for your community or your high school is going to be valuable. For example, I had a student that specifically really liked, or really didn't like the way that their school bullied. So there was a lot of cyberbullying and social media negativity at their school, and it really hurt their school atmosphere. And so what she did was to create a anti-bullying campaign on campus so that she can stop these types of things from happening, so that she can improve her school campus. And that is exactly what colleges are looking for, right? If there is an issue, a challenge, or something that's happening in your community, in your high school or beyond, what are you doing as a leader to influence that? What are you doing as a leader to make lives better for other people? And this consistent kind of impact that you're having, this quality of activities is something that's really, really important, okay? So I just kind of want to share that with you guys. So activities that colleges want, as I mentioned earlier, right? Uniqueness, leadership, community action, passion, impact, intellectual curiosity. These are just a couple of things that I wanted to kind of show you guys. But on top of this, right? On top of this, I showed on this side, there is a ratings, right? So it says, compared to other students in his or her class year, how do you rate this student in terms of? So this section right here, this is really, really important for students to know. Your teachers at your school who are going to be writing your recommendation letters, your counselor, your high school counselor who is going to help you with your recommendation letter is going to fill this out in your application. They're going to fill out, as part of your recommendation letter, these different types of things. They're going to fill out a chart that says, hey, their academic achievement is outstanding or excellent, comparing you to other students. What a lot of my students don't recognize is that there are areas in here like motivation, leadership, right? Integrity, reaction to setbacks, self-confidence. And a lot of my students are like, what? I just thought maybe if I raised my hand in class and, if I participated a lot, then my teacher is going to write me a good recommendation. But actually, that's not necessarily true. As you can see, that a lot of teachers are also going to be looking for these other personal qualities. So then I get the question of okay, Jenny, how do I show these qualities if I want to make sure that I get a really good recommendation letters? Well, a lot of this they are going to come from your extracurricular activities. And also, you might have teachers who are also not just your teacher, but also an advisor of your club on campus. And that's going to be really helpful. So if you're a teacher, like AP US history teacher, but your AP US history teacher is also your advisor for a president, a club that you're president for, that's going to add value to this recommendation letter chart that the students are going to be, or the teachers are going to be filling out, and the counselor is going to be filling out. The other thing here, I think, is that you need to make sure that you have really good relationships with your counselor as well, your high school counselor. I have so many of my students who are like, oh, I only talk to my counselor once once a year when I choose my classes. But you might want to talk to your counselor even more than that, so that they can really recognize you as a student and they know you as a student beyond that. So again, I would highly recommend that you are showing these types of characteristics, and that's why extracurriculars are important, because they need to show these qualities of you as a student, which is going to be a really important and benefiting factor of your college application process. Okay, so let's go into activities that colleges don't want, okay? Community service without direction, passion, or vision just to fulfill a requirement. So what does this mean? So I have a lot of students who do, like, you're a part of like NHS or maybe CSF or any of these clubs, and a lot of them have like requirements, right? And so if you're just doing like a 100-hour requirement just for the purposes of the requirement, that's not going to be as valuable as, say, if you did an activity because you were really passionate about it. For example, I have a student who really wants to be a vet, and one of the community service activities that she did was to go to an animal shelter and volunteer there. Well, that has absolute connection to what it is that she wants to do in the future. So that community service is impactful. Now, NHS and CSF both have opportunities like this. I think the reason why those organizations are really great is because they introduce you to a lot of different volunteering opportunities, right? Because you have to fulfill the requirement, they let you go and like volunteer at a homeless shelter. Maybe you have the opportunity to volunteer on campus at your school, right? They give you an array of volunteering opportunities, and that gives you an introduction to what volunteer service looks like. And so when I tell students, join those opportunities, because that's the only way that you're going to get insight to what volunteering opportunities are out there. But at the same time, once you find something that you're really, truly passionate about, connect to that passion and do a volunteer opportunity or community service that's related to the major and opportunity that you are really passionate about. I think that that's really important. Also, low commitment. I know that a lot of clubs also, like, I hear this from a lot of my high school students, are like, yeah, that club exists on my campus, but we don't do anything in that club, or that club doesn't do anything. And, we meet maybe once every 3 months, and we just eat like kimbap together, and, and that's pretty much it. That's all we do, right? And so if that's the case, that is considered a low commitment activity. And if you're not adding value, or you're not improving the lives of others, or it's not impacting you in any way, then it's definitely considered a low commitment. And you might want to spend that time, that energy on something else that is higher commitment and dedication. You are not a competitor in a competitive activity. What do I mean by this? If you are on a swim team, soccer team, and you are a bench warmer, and I'm not hating on the bench warmer. I totally get, sometimes people are bench warmers and you're working really hard to get on that field. But if you don't foresee yourself, actually competing, if you don't foresee yourself actually getting there, why waste your time, going to, practices, and why waste your time going to games and matches and things like that if you're not competing? Rather, use that time to do something that you are passionate about. Like I said, finding something that you are good at. I think that is also really, really important. That you take the time to also do this as well. Also, don't do something just because it looks good on your application, right? Yes, it might look good on your application, but it is really important for you to do something that you are genuinely passionate about. And the last thing that a lot of people talk or ask about is like the expensive summer camps or programs. Do I have to pay like thousands of dollars for me to go to a summer camp? Like, is that really valuable? And for that, I am going to say this. I think the biggest thing, instead of saying that it is valuable or not valuable, honestly, the biggest thing when it comes to like summer programs is that you are gaining something from the experience. If you are gaining something from the experience, then it's okay, right? But if you are not gaining anything from the experience, then that is something that you need to make sure that you are taking into consideration. Don't pay so much money if you are not gaining anything from that experience. I have students who have gone to a lot of different types of, activities. I have students who have gone through a lot of different types of colleges and tried to do different types of summer programs and activities. And if it relates to their major, if it relates to all, the things that you really want to do and that you're passionate about, then it's okay. Otherwise, I would say that it is not necessary for you to do that. So I am going to go ahead and go on to the Q&A because it looks like there are a lot of questions. So yeah, let's go ahead and go on to the Q&A. So
Maya. See me? Okay. Okay, so we have lots of questions from the online. I think one of the most important was how important are extracurriculars? And hold on, give me 1 second. It is from, Erica Hahn, this one. Now that SATs are optional, what are colleges looking for more of that will have a big impact on our college application? So I think we're all just concerned because SAT, ACT is all optional. So how can we make up for that and make ourselves a better and higher chancing qualified student?
Absolutely. That's a great question. So I want to let you guys know that first and foremost, like a lot of colleges are going to be doing something called an academic index. And basically what an academic index is it takes into consideration your GPA, your test scores, everything that's related to your academics from your APs, your subject tests, your SAT, ACT, and giving you a score, which is called an academic index score. Now, that score is going to also be determined based on the environment in which you live, as well as your high school and where you go in terms of your high school. So all of that's going to be taken into consideration. But because you have to look at it this way, a lot of high school students are going to have very similar academic index scores when it comes to their GPA, especially for top tier students. So if you think about, maybe a school like Yale or Harvard or, Ivy Leagues or even UCLA or UC Berkeley, a lot of the students who get accepted into these schools have like very similar academic kind of scores, right? Index scores. They have very similar, GPAs and things like that. And so what's going to make you stand out among those applicants comes down to 3 factors: your extracurricular activities, your teacher recommendation letters, and your extracurricular activities, teacher recommendation letters, and your essays. These 3 things are what's going to make you stand out. Now, because, the testing requirements have changed because of COVID, what a lot of colleges are focusing a lot more on is your GPA. So you need to make sure that first and foremost, your GPA is going to be the best that it possibly is. But on top of that, I would try to heighten the extracurricular activities, the essays, and the teacher recommendation letters, because that's what's going to stand you out amongst other applicants who have very similar academics and very similar other type of test scores than you.
Great. That makes sense. Whew, that's a lot for students, and I hope, thank you, Jenny. I hope everyone's listening to this and taking notes. The next question is from Julie Lee. What is more importantly considered, activities within school or activities outside of school? Julie wants to know.
That's a really, really good question. So I usually tell students that first and foremost, colleges want to see the impact that you have on campus first. So, I don't want to say one's more important than the other, because a lot of students also go to small private schools. A lot of students also go to schools where they feel like they can't make that much of an impact on campus, in which case they have to look for beyond the school, right? So I don't want to say one weighs more than the other, but generally speaking, colleges want to see first and foremost, how well are you doing at your high school, right? Are you adapting well? Are you making an impact on campus? And then expanding those opportunities elsewhere. But the most important thing beyond the in school and out of school, I think what it comes down to is a student utilizing their passions, a student being able to utilize their major or what it is that they hope to major in to make an impact, and making that connection, I think, is probably the next important thing. So it's not just like, oh, I want to be a math major and I have no activity activities in math, but rather I want to be a math major and like I tutor students in math. I am a president of a math club. I've done math competitions. I've used math to do some sort of project, right? These are the things more so that colleges are going to look for rather than simply the in-school and out-of-school elements. So hopefully that answers your question as well.
Yes, I think that's a great explanation. Next question, and our last question, unfortunately, and will be, from Sujin Kim. I went to a summer camp, Korea Daily Camp for CS. Throughout this, I utilized my leadership skills and was nominated for a leadership award by my fellow camp students. Does this have any value? So maybe like, do rewards have any value? Do awards make a good impact on the applications?
So I'm going to just start with talking about like the Korea Daily leadership opportunities. Exactly what you had said. If you had gained something from that opportunity, you're a better leader now because you went to Korea Daily leadership camp. You are, using what you learned to make an impact at school. Absolutely, that summer camp and opportunity is something that you need to put on your application because it's a leadership opportunity. And an award that you got from that activity is fantastic as well. You can absolutely put that as part of your application. And as you asked me earlier, or as Selena put it, do awards and things like that from activities matter? I would say yes, absolutely. You can put that as one of the description factors. So you can put the Korea Daily leadership camp, and then in the description you can say that you were also awarded this award from going to the camp and you were voted by the members there. And all of that is definitely going to add value to your application. So absolutely. And just because I know that there's so many questions about extracurricular activities, I will stay on the YouTube Live the comment section, and I'll try to answer as many of your questions as possible just for a couple of minutes. But you also have my email address right there at the bottom, theadmissionmasters@gmail.com. So you can always ask if you have any questions there, but I'll try to answer as many of your guys' questions as possible. I know that that's the most valuable part of something like this. So I'll try to stay on there to answer as many as I can.
You already answered the question I was going to ask, Jenny. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you. And I really do appreciate all the screenshots. Sometimes it gets confusing to navigate which box goes in where. And also for the Korean subtitles. I know that a lot of parents are watching, so really appreciate that. If parents have questions, can they also email you in Korean?
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. I can read Korean. I'm not like the best typer in Korean, but like I can definitely read Korean and I'm fluent. So yes, absolutely. Ask any questions that you have and I'll try to answer them.
Great. So for students and parents watching, just contact Jenny at the Admission Masters. That's smasters, plural, @gmail.com. And thanks again, Jenny. We really appreciate it.